walk into the emergency department for your shift and the waiting room is already overflowing. Maybe you're heading into clinic only to find an additional 3 overbooked patients on your morning schedule, and your colleague just called out sick, so there will be other patients to work in. Suddenly, the thought hits you. Well, I guess I'm not getting lunch today. If this has ever been your experience, you are in the right place. Welcome to the Charting Mastery course. I'm Dr. Ryan Stedjink, host of the MedEdWell podcast, pediatrician and certified life coach, and I'm thrilled to be your guide on this transformative journey. I want to help physicians and other medical professionals finish charting faster and get home sooner for what matters most to them. In today's lesson, we'll dive deep into the stories we tell ourselves in medicine, particularly when it comes to charting, and how these stories impact our thoughts and our feelings. Throughout these lessons, if you are in a safe place to do so, please feel free to pause this lesson to do some personal reflection and write down a few insights or answers that come up for you before going on. Let's start by understanding the power of stories. In our everyday lives as physicians, we encounter various situations that trigger certain narratives. These narratives can influence our charting experiences and ultimately our overall well-being. Take, for instance, that situation I shared with you at the beginning of this lesson, being busier than you expected to be, whether that's in clinic, in the ER, or in another clinical space. If I take that situation, 3 extra patients for my morning clinic, and think, I guess I'm not getting lunch today, there is a lot that comes up for me. Among other emotions, I feel out of control, angry, but most of all, frustrated. I'm frustrated and may find myself complaining, rushing through my visits, maybe procrastinating on other work tasks, or just putting my head down and trying to do it all on my own rather than asking a colleague for help, which ultimately leaves me with no time for lunch and I'm behind in my charting. While it is so easy to think that the overbooked patients made me frustrated, I find it so easy to miss that sneaky, automatic thought in there, I guess I'm not getting a lunch, that ends up creating the very result that I don't want. On another note, maybe you're fine with a little extra volume sometimes, but then you get that email from hospital administration that everyone's schedule template will be increasing, adding extra patients each day going forward because of high no-show rates or other financial pressures. So you get this email, always one of those Friday afternoon kind of emails, and you start stewing on it, thinking to yourself, they already put too many on my schedule. And you are angry. They send this email, you're mad, you complain to your colleagues, you draft an angry reply back to leadership and may or may not actually send it. You actively try to not fit in extra walk-in patients, and you keep thinking about it well into the weekend. And where does this get you? Ultimately, you end up disrespecting your own time and decrease your efficiency. You think it's the email or the extra patients on the schedule making you mad, but if you didn't know about them, you don't care. You're not angry because there wasn't even the opportunity to have a thought about it. This may sound like bad news, but trust me, this is something that we are going to come back to and show how this is actually really, really helpful. Okay, great. So maybe you're never one of those who gets mad or frustrated, but maybe you just saw a patient with 10 medical problems who comes in twice a month to your clinic and recently called the patient advocate on their prior doctor before transferring to you. You just finished their visit and now you're doing your charting. You're spending more time charting than you would for other patients. You're going back over prior notes, considering the words you put into your clinical note, and really want it to be perfect. Sounds reasonable, right? Except that in this case, your perfectionism is coming from feeling scared. Scared that if I don't chart perfectly, I could end up in a lawsuit. So you end up scared to do your charts while you're doing your charts. Do you want to chart angry, frustrated, tired, scared, any number of other emotions? Does that sound how you wanted to feel at work when you decided to go into medicine? No. These emotions are not productive for you. And being more productive means you get home on time. You chart completely and thoroughly. And you are able to provide safe and effective, timely care and do this for the patient and for your RVUs, your visits, those expectations that are on you and as part of the business of medicine, providing good care and getting credit for it. I want you to now take a moment and reflect. What comes up for you when you think about charting in medicine? What stories do you find yourself telling? And here's the key insight. The feelings that we experience are actually caused by the thoughts that we have about charting. It's not the circumstances themselves that determine how we feel, it's the meaning that we attach to them, what we make it mean. I want you to consider this. What thought is behind the feeling that you just identified? What was coming up when you told yourself that story about charting? And how is that impacting how you show up when you're charting during your clinical day? After exploring the thoughts that are currently there and how that works itself out, then we can decide what, if anything, we might want to change. By shifting negative or unhelpful thoughts about charting to more productive ones, we can improve our charting experience and ultimately our overall productivity. As we wrap up this lesson, remember that transforming your thoughts is an ongoing process. It takes practice and self-awareness. I encourage you to apply the techniques that we discussed today in your clinical practice. Observe how these shifts in thinking impact your charting experience and your ability to get home sooner for what matters most to you. And then come join me in the next lesson.